Hello, grade 7. So, after listening to all the lessons and all the videos that you have watched on the transatlantic slave trade, it's time for you now to give a feedback to show that we have understood all the things that you were taught. But one way of doing that is for you to write an essay. You are expected, like I mentioned before, to satisfy the examiner that you have understood fully and in detail anything pertaining the transatlantic slave trade. Now, so what is your essay topic? Because that will show you exactly what you need to say or what you need to write down in your essay. What are the points? What are the main points? What are you being asked about? So your topic is discuss the effects of transatlantic slave trade on the African continent and the Americas. So, grade 7, what are you being asked? You are being asked to discuss. Discuss is the key word here. You need to discuss the effects of slavery. Where? On the African continent and where else? In the Americas. So, trying to look at the topic, what are you required to talk about? First of all, the key word is effects, and also the place, which is Africa and the Americas. So to begin with, you need to understand that the word effect does not necessarily mean negative effect. It could be a positive effect. And in this case here, we know for a fact that slavery had a negative effect on Africa, but has had a positive effect on the Americas. Why? Because, well, in general, we can say Africa suffered and the Americas gained. In this case now, what should be your starting point as you write this essay, as you try to convince the examiner that you fully understand what happened during slavery? Remember, the word discuss means it's everything that you know about slavery in Africa and on the American continent. So anything, because it's not giving you only a specific area or how you're supposed to do it. It's saying discuss, meaning that you are expected to give your own opinion as well. You look at the facts and you are expected to reason into it, and you have to show feeling as well as you write on how you feel about that, because this is a discussion. um to you, grade 7, you might think that discussion is something that is verbal. No, in an essay you can also discuss. So how do you do this? Just listen to this. Maybe your starting point, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is the way you should do it, but it's an example. If I were to write the same essay, this is how I would start. It should be noted from the onset that Africa today is perceived to be a backward continent, and an unschooled continent, people who are backward, who are lagging behind other continents. Why? This is all owing to slave trade that was started by the Europeans. Having said that, at the starting point, we have opened up now um, yourself to many ideas, to anything that you might want to start with. Never forget that your sequence of writing things must be making sense. You cannot begin to start with people in the cotton fields or in the sugar fields in the United States of America. No, you have to start in Africa, where slaves were captured, where wars were started. But you are talking about the effects here. Whatever happened, you must look at the bigger picture. For instance, I will give you an example. The starting of slavery, or for hunting of slaves in Africa, is the cause of Africa being behind today. Why? Remember what we discussed. African states were beginning to pay attention to war, or making weapons for war, or running away, or being safe instead of developing Africa. So we are saying in general here, in your essay, you should show the examiner that you fully understand that Africa being backward today is as a result of slavery that took place, and which was started by the Europeans who sold Africans to the Americas. Make the examiner understand that part. Now, what other things would you like to mention? You'd like to mention the effects on families. Families were left broken, either those who escaped slavery here in Africa and those who went and became slaves in the Americas. They were a broken people. The families were dismantled. Do you remember well that we said once you reach Havana or James Bay or any of these slave auctions, it doesn't mean that you as an individual, you will be sold where the rest of your family have gone. No, that would be the last time you would have seen other members of your family. All these facts are things that should be included in your essay with the heading, What were the effects of slavery in Africa and in the Americas? Well, looking at the Americas, for example, what are the things that you would like to mention? You want to make the examiner know that you fully understand that the United States is one of the most industrialized lands under the sun, and that is owing as well to slave trade, because they developed their country using unpaid labor. And yes, those effects are still there today. Do not forget, grade 7, that coming back to Africa, there is still wars, and countries are still fighting one another in Africa more than elsewhere in the world. Why? It is all because of the things that happened way back there, hundreds of years ago. Don't forget to mention such things. Anyway, what else would you need to mention here? Grade 7, remember that all those journeys that happened at sea, all those depressing voyages, and when people were being abused, um, left a lot of brokenness among the African nationals, or the people that were taken into slavery. So the dehumanization, that feeling of you not being a human and not being respected, having lost all your dignity, these things must be mentioned in your essay because they are effects of slavery. We mentioned of how people turned to religion to try and find some encouragement, to try and find some hope. It is because of the way they were treated that they resorted to want to have somebody of higher powers who can hear their plight, who can see their tears. And therefore, the effects of such are seen today. If you look at the Afro-Americans today, you find them wearing all those big chains and crosses and all that, and some turned to Islam. So the religious nature that you find among Afro-Americans today are also coming from that time of slavery. Notice, you know what you want to say and you fully understand your history. If you use words or jargon that one would be using when they are talking about slavery. We can say these are good words or words that would impress the examiner, because now you want to talk about such words such as servitude, bondage, emancipation. Include all these words that we're hearing in those videos. Also, the names of people will be important. What names would you want to mention? Would you not mention Harriet Tubman? You would. John Brown? And many others that you can think of, that names that were outstanding, that were mentioned several times, people who made an impact either in revolting or in rebelling against slavery, or people who aided, who worked to help the abolishing of slavery. You can use such words as abolitionists or abolitionist movement. And here you are referring to people who worked so hard to make slavery come to an end, people who campaigned to have the slavery abolished. Use such words and show that you understand them. But what if you have forgotten some of the things? I remember you were taking down notes. Go back to your notes. Take your textbook, read. But is that enough, grade 7? No, that's not enough. Google some of the things you want to know about, things that you have forgotten, things that I didn't mention as the teacher, things that your textbook omitted, things that are not found in the things in your books or in this classroom. Those you can find on the Google, and then add them to your essay. Then you can produce a very rich essay, a very rich account of what happened during slavery or servitude or bondage in the United States. If you're not sure that your essay is flowing nicely, you have started with the starting ideas and end with the ideas that must come to the end. It's not wasting time if you have to jot down your ideas first, arrange them properly, and see if the sequence is making sense. Try to recall as much as you can, check your notes, check the textbook again, or you can ask me to relate some of the things that I had said. I could play you back some of the videos that I played you, the YouTube videos, or some of the pre-recorded lessons that I might have given you. By so doing, you will produce an essay that will give you good marks. You need to remember that at grade 7 level, you are expected to write essays that make sense. We're preparing you to go to grade 8, and when you get to grade 8, they want to see if you are able to write a good essay. Are you able to relate? Are you able to tell back the things that we have learned? Thank you, grade 7. I hope you will produce a very good essay. So go and jot down some notes, prepare sort of a plan before you write, and then have your final writing. I will give you, say, 10 days to come up with a good essay. Every one of you will have a chance, will be afforded a chance to read their essay to the class, and then we can criticize them together and see where we've made a mistake or how we have done well in this essay. But just remember, if you have not read well, you cannot expect to produce a good essay, because you have very few points to produce. So I suggest that you read the whole account on transatlantic slave trade, and so come up with something that you will be proud of. Stay safe, grade 7, and see you later.